drivers that do use SR30 are going to definitely want to plan ahead for those delays and give themselves extra time to get to their destination.
The detour route has been established during the closure. It will take motorists south along 1000 West and onto US 8991 out to Wellsville before returning back along SR23 to Valley View. Signboards were placed along the highway and have been notifying motorists of the closure for weeks. Gleason said they decided to complete this part of the project when traffic would be lighter over a weekend instead of during the middle of the week.
We want to impact traffic as little as possible, and over the weekends, there's fewer vehicles that are out there using SR30, and so if you can get the work done over the weekend, we are extending it through Tuesday morning, but if you can get it done in the weekend, then you're inconveniencing people a little bit less than you would during the week.
This weekend's closure is only part of a large-scale project that began earlier this year to expand the highway. It includes increasing the width of the shoulder, widening bridges, improving drainage, and the intersection of SR23, along with adding a sidewalk and trail along the road. A fatal auto pedestrian crash shut down both directions of State Street in South Salt Lake. According to Danielle Croyle with South Salt Lake Police, the crash happened a short time after 8 last night near 3900 South State. Upon arrival, police discovered a female, though it was unclear whether she was considered a juvenile or not, who had been struck by a car and was unresponsive. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Police reported the driver stayed at the scene and was fully cooperative in the investigation. It remains unknown if impairment played a role. Additional details were not released. And a body found near Battle Creek Falls at the beginning of September has been identified as a 23-year-old woman from Pleasant Grove. The Utah County Sheriff's Office identified the deceased person as Leila Ann Woolley after receiving results from an autopsy. According to Spencer Cannon with the Utah County Sheriff's Office, a group of hikers were near the Battle Creek Falls area at about 10 o'clock in the morning, September 1st, when they discovered a body near the stream about 50 yards downstream from the falls. When questioned about the suspicious nature of the death, Cannon said Woolley did appear to have injuries. However, part of the investigation will need to determine whether those injuries were intentional, caused by a fall, or inflicted by someone else. The cause of death was released as blunt force trauma. However, details related to Woolley's death remained unclear. The incident remains under investigation. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Bring back the sounds you've been missing. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Daines at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Mostly clear tonight, low around 50, and then sunny, warmer upper 80s on Saturday. Partly cloudy, lower 80s on Sunday. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
The semi-annual Napa Gold Filter Sale is on now through September 15. You can't beat Napa prices on diesel oils, and more truckloads are on the way. Chevron Delo 15W40, $14.99 a gallon. Valvoline Premium Blue Diesel Oils, 5W40 Synthetic, $23.99 a gallon. 15W40, only $16.99 a gallon. Napa Premium 15W40 Diesel Oil, $12.99 a gallon. Price is good while supplies last. Cash or card only, and no delivery at these prices. Sale ends September 15 at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Saturday, September 9th, come help ignite the light with the National Parks Band as they perform a free concert at the Cache County Fairgrounds, bringing positive support to suicide prevention. Education booths, food trucks, speakers, family fun, and an amazing free concert by the National Parks Band. This wonderful event is free, bringing attention to suicide prevention and the hundreds of people that work on the front lines for our communities. If you think you might need help or you just want to talk to someone, call the National Hotline 988 and please come to this Saturday's Saturday's event. Search Ignite the Light for concert details and donation information. The outpouring of support for this event is unbelievable. Businesses and individual donations are making this event possible. Join the festivities at the Cache County Fairgrounds Saturday, September 9th for a free concert and other events bringing attention and positive support to suicide prevention. Search Ignite the Light for concert and event details. Thank you, Cache Valley, for making this event possible. Remember, that National Suicide Hotline number is 988.
It's all happening.
This thing is nicer than my apartment.
Surely we can't be serious.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. That was just a bit of the Regal Cinemas ad that sadly has been retired. Andy, this is I didn't even know about this. Like, this is apparently 20, 30 years Regal Cinemas has been running this ad that's just people coming into their theater saying famous movie quotes. Whoops, wrong audio.
I like that one.
It was the right audio as we were coming in. I'll find the right one. It's literally just people walking around the theater saying movie quotes, famous movie quotes, as they sit down, as they buy concessions. But I didn't know this, but apparently this is Regal. People loved these, and Regal Cinemas just announced they weren't going to do them anymore. This is the reason I bring it up. Apparently, they were paying a lot of money to the studios that they already pay to bring the movies in to run these ads.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say to the studios, really? Like, you could not be making enough money off of Regal Cinemas charging them to quote your movies in those ads and make money off of it, because that's why they were able to charge them, copyright laws. You should have just said, those ads are funny, they will bring people in to see the movies we made and you're paying us to play. Go ahead. And they didn't. And so Regal Cinemas announced that they were actually shutting it down.
Aw.
That's sad. Anyway.
There's
my little movie trivia for the day. We've got to save time for that Rotten Tomatoes article. You didn't
I was actually
going
to say we should talk about that. There's.
Do you want to start with that? We can, wherever you want.
I think it's. There's been a thing with Rotten Tomatoes for probably the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even a little bit more.
Well, we should preface this by saying we're talking these aggregated thumbs up, thumbs down,
and it's really
things in general.
Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, they have the most. I mean, let's be honest. When Rotten Tomatoes came on, it was very. I mean, it's been around a long time, and people, they liked it. It was a cool idea, right?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I still go there because I do enjoy seeing it's sort of like with polling in politics. Even the bad pollsters can help you elicit a trend.
Right.
And so I kind of like seeing the trend of audience versus critics. That was my favorite part of Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't really care what the actual score was because I didn't feel like that was reliable. But I liked looking at those movies where there was a huge gap between audience and critics, and then looking to see if that was a movie I really liked.
No, you're right.
So for that, it was kind of fun, but
and let's talk about something really quick too. It's just been one of those things that have, as it's gotten more and more eyeballs, it's kind of become progressively worse. Now, here's the thing: if you're not Roger Ebert,
which no one is,
rest
anymore.
his soul, rest his. Which no one is. His brand is still there. But if you're not,
it's still one of the best websites.
If you're not a big name critic in a larger town, right? Maybe you're just an online only critic trying to get some legs underneath you, whatever.
Yeah.
Something like Rotten Tomatoes is a big deal for you because it's it's kind of a two-way street in that situation. One is you're providing them, another verified critic that they can use to determine fresh versus rotten every week or whatever. The other thing, though, is that it provides that other person, this upstart critic, some traffic that they may not be getting elsewhere, some eyeballs, right, for people to see their work.
I see where you're going.
We've had this discussion, I shouldn't say we've had it. This is a discussion we're having as part of the Utah Film Critics Association, is, we have several of our critics that are I wouldn't say credentialed, but are in Rotten Tomatoes, and I know it's been beneficial for them. But the other discussion that we're having is based off this article that came out, and just kind of this long-standing sort of dislike of Rotten Tomatoes, and just how people can go in and sort of game the thumbs up or thumbs down, right?
And that's kind of what this article you found is, is starting with, right?
and
people
really
can game it.
Well, it was a PR firm that was representing pictures, indie pictures, right? These aren't like major studio motion pictures, but kind of independent movies. They were basically saying, "Hey, critic, what if we give you $50, right?" Or that there was. We'll just say there was money changing hands to boost up, the freshness rating.
Yeah.
And in this one case, this movie that they did this for,
so they weren't paying them to write a positive review, but they were paying them to give them the right rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and then a little one-sentence blurb.
But not necessarily, because Rotten Tomatoes is the one that comes up with the algorithm, right?
Okay.
They're the ones that are saying fresh or rotten based on the grade. So they were literally changing their review,
So they were just changing it from 50% to 80%.
They were basically saying let
check.
me watch it again, and maybe I'll say some more favorable things about it. And then Rotten Tomatoes would say, that's a positive
upon
review.
a second viewing.
Yes, that's right.
This should win an Oscar.
Yeah, but in this one situation, I mean, think about this. This is where I think it turns out to be a big deal. I'm 100% sure there are other things going on like that. I can tell you right now myself, and I think I speak for the rest of the critics group in Utah, is no one has ever come to me and said, "Andy, will you please give Ant-Man Quantumania an A," so that
instead of an A-.
Yeah, no one's ever said that.
Now, so this is interesting. So you, knowing you would totally let somebody pay to send you to the movie or to send you to an event around a movie's premiere. You would totally let somebody,
if somebody wanted to bring
but
me,
you would still come back in here on Friday and go, "It was garbage."
Yeah, and that's the tough part.
But are there rules about this in the Utah Critics Association? Is there like an ethical code?
Jimmy Martin, who was in our critics group until he passed, unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
That was sad.
He did reviews for KSL on TV, and he got invited to a lot of junkets, and I can tell you that Jimmy liked movies just altogether. So I mean, I used to always make fun of Pete Hammond.
Yeah,
because it's like Pete Hammond, didn't matter what the movie was, right?
Yeah,
he'd be like, my big fat Greek wedding 9, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, what a marvelous turn!" You
will love this.
And about, I don't know, probably 10, 12, maybe even 13, probably about 15 years ago, I was like, "Pete Hammond, what a shill you are for the studios." You know what I mean? And then
he used to say that I just want people to be excited about movies.
Well, and I've actually kind of changed my tune with that. Is I'm like, what? It's okay, man. If Pete likes going to movies and he loves movies and he gets excited and he likes stuff that everyone else thinks is garbage, that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. And so
I just think people want a little bit of honesty because they want to be. What I like is when a critic says, this movie is really good. You should absolutely go see it. It gets a little slow in this part, or those are the reviews I like because it lets you know that person was not just because I know that it happens to me. Sometimes I get way excited about a movie because of
and then you're
wrote
disappointed
or who's in it, or
Yeah.
And I'll fully admit I'm probably cutting some of the Star Wars movies a lot of slack because I like them. You know?
Yeah, I hear you.
You'll never hear me say, though, that it's sad they've never won an Oscar for anything but technical or film score, because that's probably the only thing they deserve an Oscar for. So you want to know that you're reading, that your time's being spent well reading someone. You want that level of faith in their credibility.
Well, and you know, we could spend probably 4 hours talking about this because it's a bigger discussion, right? And I think this is why we're concerned as a film critics group, and why this is going to be a hot topic for us as we close out the year. Is right now, you know, studios. We maintain very positive relations with studio reps and studios and PR firms that represent the studios, because if I'm a studio right now, like, what, maybe I don't really care if a regional group like Utah Film Critics Society or Idaho Film Critics, or, you know, someplace, you know, where it's not like a film mecca, right, where the population is smaller. Maybe I don't care if I have to bend over backwards to get these guys entertainment to review and stuff like that. Maybe because of social media, right? Because I've got Facebook, I've got Twitter, I've got 4 million critics, you know, that are just not employed critics. So I do think
that's a good point.
We are at a different place today than we were. You know, I mean, you remember this. You know, you and I both grew up in the 80s. I remember turning on, you know, KUTV Channel 4 on a you know, Sunday or Saturday afternoon, and Siskel and Ebert at the movies comes on, you know. And
I used to love when they get in fights.
Yeah, well, there was that.
That was my favorite part,
you know,
because Siskel gets so mad and Roger would be so
and everybody today has a YouTube channel, you know, where they can review movies. Everybody can,
it's not just movies. When I was looking for that Regal ad on YouTube, I knew it'd be on there, but I wanted to play it as part of the show. I found more Regal Cinemas movie quote ad explained videos by just random people than I did the actual original video.
Well, and movie trailers aren't super excited. Like, I have a rule, Jason, you know my
That's
rules.
Another thing. Breaking down the new movie trailer.
Oh, my gosh.
Like an 11-minute video. Some 45-year-old guy in Minnesota.
There is some quality. There is some quality
there's
content.
Obviously an audience.
But there's some.
It's not for me, but
there's some garbage content, too. Most of it, I would say, is probably garbage. But getting back to the whole, you know, critic thing is, you know, there is still a group of population. I don't think there's a big population that opens up, you know, the New York Times. You know, Quentin Tarantino said this. You know, he said, name 3 movie critics. Name 3 critics that you read, right? Like, you and I might know people.
I know you. What's that troublemaker that used to write him for the Herald Journal? Forget his name.
Aaron Peck.
I'm kidding. I remember you, Aaron, obviously, because I know you guys. A lot of the Utah critics, I do know by name, but. I think if you're looking nationwide or you're looking that celebrity status, like
it's just different.
The Gene guy with the mustache,
Gene Siskel.
Yeah,
that he was on, or not Gene Siskel. What was his name?
It is Gene, but
it's Gene. It's Gene Simmons
because he's the other Gene.
It was Gene Siskel. Gene. What was that guy's name? He was on the Today Show
now, but
sat in the office. Yeah, he looked like he looked like the teacher from Welcome Back, Kotter. Who snorted cocaine and then went.
He like curly hair, big walrus mustache. And it was Gene something, but not because Gene Siskel's the other.
I think it was. It wasn't a Mr. Green Jeans, or is that a different show?
It's a different show. But no, it was those were famous
Gene Shalit.
So those were famous
I just
critics.
Typed in Gene Today Show and it comes up Gene Shalit.
But if you look, those famous critics that were either household or almost household names, that was
They've been phased
internet.
Out. Yeah,
that was before the
internet has changed the game. I mean, yeah. So going back to your point, even when the internet started, what I liked is it gave me easier access, right?
Yeah.
To read reviews that I didn't normally review. So, like, for instance, again, I was, you know, probably my top film critic of all time is Roger Ebert. Not because of his at the movie stuff on TV. I actually just, Roger Ebert is a fantastic writer. And in fact, when people would come to him and say, how do I become a film critic? He'd say, learn how to write first, right? Because no one cares what you have to say if you can't write it. I did the other one I liked, this is kind of my snobby one, is Anthony Lane of The New Yorker. But this is, again, the days of like Pauline Kael of, or like...
Anthony's a good example because he's why sometimes I don't like critics.
No,
because once in a while it's just like, oh, you are so New Yorker.
It is.
Like you just had to put that New Yorker paragraph in there, didn't you?
Here's the fun part of that, though. I agree with you. There's some reviews I've read where I've been like, dude, no.
Lighten up.
But I love his writing. I love his style. You know what I mean? And
he is a good movie critic overall because he's
and then there's
careful.
There's the question, too, is like there's film criticism. So, like, for instance, I would say, like, Scott Renshaw, who is a part of our critics group, he writes for the City Weekly. Scott, to me, is a film critic.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say I'm a film critic, but I don't get into, like, Scott really will kind of peel layers back. And that's his thing, and he's good at it. I probably consider myself more of a
almost
reviewer.
More of a Sundance thing, though, don't you think? What Scott does?
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, not everybody does that, and that's okay. He's really good at it, and I think one thing I love about Scott is he wants to keep. He has a just burning passion to keep this art form because it is alive. And so I think that kind of swings us back to the original point is, when we see things like this as a group, like when we see reviewers being paid for reviews, studios pushing that, it's also not studios, but the PR firm. It's
the popularity of Rotten Tomatoes. That has to be kind of concerning.
And the other flip side to this too is we've known, like I said, probably going back to The Force Awakens was probably the first movie I remember. Was a couple things. One is you'd see a movie that everybody really liked, critics and audiences, and then you'd get these like incel bros in their sweatpants in their grandma's basement, just hammering Rotten Tomatoes with negative reviews. They get
stormtroopers.
They get on Reddit and be like, "No more black stormtroopers. No more girls with lightsabers.
Too many women's."
No, and Luke shouldn't have to get up and make his bed. So anyway, so they get on and do all these movies. They just kill the reviews, and then you get the other opposite of that too. Though, is where you get somebody that's like, I remember speaking of Scott Renshaw, there was Zootopia or some animated movie had like 100% for the longest time, and I think he gave it a bad review and it slipped to 99, and like the hate mail that came in like, I will come to your house and murder your family.
Because he was the one that
you ruined it. You ruined it for me.
How
dare you? Yeah, it's like, calm down. And really at the end of the day too, like I guess that's I think where I land on this whole thing is like, people just take this too serious. Like it's just too serious. Like it's entertainment.
I think so. I have fun reading reviews at times. Like I've read some reviews of Barbie that have been that I've enjoyed as much as articles I've read about some far more important news story, of global news or something about Ukraine. But I've been engaged in it that much because, for example, there was one. It's a critic. I don't remember who or where. It was in one of the legacy newspapers, so like Chicago Tribune or LA Times or something like that. One of those guys, but
one of the snooty papers.
Yeah, but they were talking about so they did the movie. They're like, here's why it's a technically good movie. They're talking about the writing. They're talking about something I hadn't noticed, which was timing in the movie. This critic was going on about how the comedic timing of this movie was just perfect, and it wouldn't have worked without it. And then he explains what he means, and so stuff like that to me is fascinating to read about.
Yeah.
But in the end, basically what he says in the final paragraph, and I think this is what most people want to hear one way or another. In the end, in the final paragraph, he basically says, you will have fun. So much fun that those friends of yours who haven't seen it, you'll go with them to see it again because you've had that much fun, and that's what movies are supposed to be about.
Yeah,
and I like
that was Ebert. Ebert would say, I liked this movie. I can't quite recommend it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
he
actually maybe he'd passed away before. I feel like he was still alive when Super 8 came out. the J.J. Abrams, that trickery of the J.J. Abrams best trailer, best movie for 3/4 of the movie.
Until it turns into Cloverfield?
Yeah, and then it's Cloverfield, and it's dumb.
Which Cloverfield is a fine movie by itself.
Yeah, it's just, he set up what easily could have been the next E.T.
Yeah, I agree.
And he built it perfectly, and the characterization was amazing, and the characters were amazing, and then he's just like, no, that's the best ending I can think of. It's Cloverfield. But yeah,
he's been taking all our trinkets.
Yeah. I'm like, well...
It's basically Pete's Dragon.
Now I don't care about your trinkets, and I wish that he took more. But Ebert, I think, is the one that wrote, he hated it.
Yeah.
And he hated it for the same reason I did. He thought the ending was a cop-out. He thought J.J. Abrams had a 3/4 of the way finished movie and should have spent more time on it. All these mean things, but then he said, but in the end, I really enjoyed myself. Go see it.
Yeah.
And I thought I think that's what most people want to hear is, should I go to this or is it a waste of my time?
And to your point now, it's easy for somebody just to go to Rotten Tomatoes and they go, oh, this is certified fresh. They don't have to.
Yeah, I'll obviously love it.
There's no critical thinking that goes into it.
And if you've had that experience, you know that you can't rely on that because certified fresh doesn't mean you will have fun.
And the other thing, too, is you and I talk about this, is there would be the audience score and then the critic score. And sometimes I don't agree with the critic score, and I agree with the audience score, or vice versa. But at the end of the day, Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, I guess to put a nice period on the end of this discussion is Rotten Tomatoes is kind of in the crosshairs right now with a lot of,
I think that's good. I kind of hope it's the end of it.
Yeah. Is there
because
yeah.
What they've done to this is they should be ashamed of themselves, what they've done to the... Because this is a really cool idea, Rotten Tomatoes.
I think like a lot of things, they kind of let it get away without doing some renovations along the way.
Yeah.
And now it's become... Now, and my guess is what'll come after this is that, there'll be some extra step of verification for critics or something. But I got to be honest too, like, studios do a lot of things. I mean, you've heard me talk about this. When it's award season, I'll get a giant box from Netflix that'll have a Pinocchio Funko Pop in there and a T-shirt, or like when I can't remember what the movie was, Barbarian. You get a milk bottle with like little hairs on it. Like they're trying to do things to make they want to, like, I mean, it makes sense from the PR standpoint, right? They want to leave an imprint on you know, during award season. And I'm fine with that stuff because that stuff doesn't sway me. Even if I think it's the most clever box in the world, it's not like I'm like, all right, fine.
Well, I have to like it now.
I like it now. That doesn't.
I mean, I can be. Some of the merchandising around Deadpool, I think, was so funny to me. It made, when I finally saw the movie, it did make the movie funnier.
Well, but I mean, imagine getting paid.
Oh yeah, no.
That's why junkets, I think, live on the border of that because somebody's like, hey, we're gonna put you up in a hotel, pay for your meals. I mean, I think Jimmy and his wife at one point they got flown to Hawaii.
Wow.
For
what was that?
I can't. It was an animated movie, and I can't remember what it was. But I was like, good gravy, And again, it's not. We're not talking like hundreds of journalists, but a good portion. That's funny. That's why a movie costs $330 million to make.
And is that best use of marketing funds? Really?
I don't know,
because that critic could still be like, let's just make the sloth didn't make me laugh.
No, it did not. It did not.
The For the People movie show continues with Andy Morgan here in the studio. You're welcome to join us, of course, 753-5868. More. First, though, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. The Cache Suicide Prevention Coalition and the Northern Utah Violence Prevention Education Coalition are teaming up to bring the third annual Ignite the Light Suicide Prevention event and concert tomorrow to the Cache County Fairgrounds. On KVNU's For the People program on Thursday, Cache County Executive David Zook said it's encouraging to see everyone come together for this.
There are so many great organizations in our community who have made mental health a focus, and we're going to have actually more than 24 different booths at this event on Saturday with information and resources to help people. And I'm just so proud of the way people, organizations, and our sponsors are all coming together to help the people in our community who are in need.
The day's events begin with a First Responders Appreciation Breakfast tomorrow morning from 7 to 9. All first responders are invited to attend. All afternoon and evening events are free to families and individuals of all ages. The events will include food trucks, games, and the opportunity for organizations to share resources with the community from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Zook said that is followed by a somber event, a Luminaria Walk at 6 p.m. to remember those lost to suicide. After that, a couple of speakers will be featured.
One of them, his name is Joe Tuiaana, and he started a group called I Love You, Bro. He last year had this experience where he found a man on an overpass who was contemplating suicide, and he went to him and he said, I love you, bro, and went to him with outstretched arms and was able to prevent the attempt.
The other speaker is Tia B. Stokes, who has started a movement called Choosing Happy. After that, the main event, a free concert in the park, will happen with the band The National Parks, founded about a decade ago in northern Utah. Zook said they're an indie folk band, and their music is happy and outdoorsy. Get information on the whole event at cashcounty.org/ignite the light. On Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, the U.S. sustained 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda. Those attacks took the lives of 2,977 individuals and left another 25,000 people with injuries or long-term health consequences. To honor the memories of those who died, people living in the U.S. and Canada take part in the National Day of Service and Remembrance. This year, volunteers are choosing to commemorate the annual Day of Service on Saturday. Hundreds of organizations are working together to get community and interfaith service projects and volunteer opportunities for that day. The doors are open to any congregation or organization that wants to help with service this Saturday. And also this Saturday, 1,500 cyclists and some 4,000 support crews are in town for the 41st annual Logan to Jackson bicycle race, the Latoja Classic. With that many cyclists on the road, there may be some brief travel delays for Cache Valley motorists. The first cyclists will depart from Sunrise Cyclery at 138 North, 100 East, beginning at 5:30 tomorrow morning. Other groups will be released at 4-minute time intervals to keep delays to a minimum for Cache Valley motorists. Latoja Race Director Brent Chambers said cyclists and support crews will take 2 different routes to minimize congestion between Logan and Preston. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies is the forecast, and the overnight low near 50, and then sunny tomorrow, upper 80s for the high, partly cloudy and lower 80s on Sunday. Weather brought to you by Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. He can get you out of insurance rate creep. Auto Owners Insurance and Quality First, 752-0101. Get more details on these and other stories at CacheValleyDaily.com.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology cares about you and your hearing. Dr. Paul Danes has always called Cache Valley home and cares about its people. And Dr. Danes offers state-of-the-art equipment, allowing him to provide the best service and care possible when it comes to your hearing. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, give Dr. Danes a call at 753-HEAR or visit CacheValleyHearing.com to see what they can do for you.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put it up and forget about it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
Buy, build, and bank with your local financial experts, Bank of Utah, the two-time gold medal winning bank for Best of Northern Utah. With locations all over Cache Valley, Tremonton, Brigham City, and the state, Bank of Utah has a branch near you. Bank of Utah offers personal banking, mortgage and commercial lending, trust and investment services at all branches, and mortgage services on 2nd North. Bank of Utah remains committed to helping neighbors flourish because together, we are Utah. Find out more at bankofutah.com. Member FDIC, NMLS number 422914.
If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, don't wait. Call the Advocates today for a free legal consultation. You didn't deserve to be in an accident, but you do deserve an advocate. Chat online at utahadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550.
Get ready, Logan Monster Truck fans. 2 big shows on September 16th. Cache County Fairgrounds will explode with the Monster Truck Nitro Tour. Big blown monster trucks flying over 30 feet in the air. Freestyle motocross and watch the jet ambulance melt down. Burning it down. Plus all new inflation buster prices. VIP tickets include free pit party pass to meet the drivers and the best seat in the house. Get your tickets now at monstertrucktour.com or get them late at the gate. Subject to service fees. For more information, go to www.monstertrucktour.com. Come early and ride in a real monster truck at the Monster Truck Nitro Tour. Kids get a free tour gift at the Saturday Matinee Show while supplies last. The Monster Truck Nitro Tour. 2 big shows on September 16th. Monster Trucks Freestyle Motocross and Jet Ambulance Meltdown. It's gonna get wild at the Cache County Fairgrounds.
It's been a crazy few months, with big rainstorms fueling the weeds in your lawn, garden, or empty lot, and the spiders coming inside to beat the heat. You need help. Let Logan Extermination take care of those pesky weeds and unwanted pests with an exterior lawn application and interior treatment for bugs. Call Logan Extermination today before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Weed control starts at $45. Interior spider spray starts at $95.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan here in the studios. You're welcome to join us, 753-5868. We've got new movies to talk about, movies we missed to talk about. This doesn't deserve a lot of time, I guess, but maybe we should just get it out of the way.
We spent way too much time on Rotten Tomato. Everyone's like, sorry, it's important.
Let's just get this out of the way. Kind of as a bookend to our discussion about good film review. If I were to write a review of Blue Beetle, I wouldn't even try to explain because I'd ruin it. I would make it sound less good than it is. So I would just say this. Even if you're not a super huge fan of the Avengers or anything DC has done before, if you saw Flash in the early summer and it wasn't your thing, if you loved Flash, if you've loved every comic book superhero movie ever made, this movie, I bet the number of people that don't like this movie are so few and far between if they go see it. I think it's been marketed horribly. I think the trailer doesn't do it justice. This movie was amazing.
Yeah,
not perfect. I'm not saying that.
I think it's just.
But this was the best movie of the year. For me,
it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I can't quite put it to the very top. I will say it's the best superhero movie. Outside of probably Guardians 3.
I'm just going on my experience sitting there in that seat watching this movie. This was the movie you don't want to miss.
Well, remember what I said last week? I said It's the best DC movie.
Oh, without a doubt.
In my opinion. And I watched some others.
I actually think this surpasses a lot of the post-second Avengers movies. Yeah. Or Marvel movies.
Yeah, I
like this more than the second Ant-Man.
Unfortunately, it's not going to get. I hope it gets a little bit of a cult following more when it hits DVD. You know what I mean, and streaming, because I do think that, and I'm not going to call it superhero fatigue, right? I've been referring to superhero fatigue, and then I started putting Star Wars in that. So what I'll call it now is franchise fatigue.
Yeah,
a little bit, and I think
I feel like they recognize that in this movie. Because this is a movie about a family.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
You're right.
It really is. The superhero thing is almost incidental at a certain point, secondary at a certain point.
I would agree
most
with
of
that.
the movie.
Well, but that just goes back to the whole thing we talked about. Is that writing makes it. It doesn't matter what the movie is about; it's the writing behind it. And so this again, unfortunate.
This movie emotionally moved me twice, and not in. Everybody got a little misty-eyed at a couple scenes there in those last two Avengers movies.
Yeah.
For good reason. But this was different. This wasn't, fear of anyone dying. This wasn't any, it wasn't anything like any of those typical. There were just these 2 points in the movie with such emotional wallop that I did get a little misty-eyed. And I don't know if that was the intent of the movie makers, but I was just really impressed by this movie, and I feel like
I agree.
I feel like everyone should give it a shot.
And it's definitely I felt like it was something you could take your whole family to.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
I don't remember. It's PG-13 or PG?
I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. There's a lot of violence in it, but not not limbs blowing up and stuff. But I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Really quick before we start talking about what is going to come out this fall, if there are new movies that are in the theater this weekend. So most of these were not available for critics to review, but I heard
they didn't do a lot of critic advanced screenings of Gran Turismo. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
I wonder why.
It could have used it.
Yeah, that seems like advanced screening fodder right there.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder like sometimes if they throw their arms up in the air. But yeah, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. If you didn't know that there was a 2.
I didn't see 2. I knew it existed.
I thought it was one of the most anyway, I did not care for the first one. I thought it was overrated.
I mean, it was funny. But
I know it was a fun thing. Like, oh, it's this movie, a little indie movie. Chugga chugga chugga.
It had some hilarious moments, but I agree with you. I thought, I didn't get the hype.
The other movie that's out this week is a sequel to The Nun. Which, again, very creepy character from the Conjuring universe. I thought The Nun was kind of a silly movie. It had some creepy moments, but The Nun was best left back in The Conjuring 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hated it because in the Conjuring universe, The Nun is a bit mysterious, and then the movie comes along and explains the mystery, and it's really lame.
Yeah, I just liked it better.
It's really kind of a dumb explanation.
Well, sometimes we don't need to know everything. But speaking of, really quick...
Did that story need to be told?
Speaking of, I said I'd mention this really quick before we, again, start talking about the fall, but the box office... so far this year, 2023. So, for context...
Do you think Barbie's going to set an international record? Because it's close.
Yeah. So, really quick, 2019 was the last big year for movies. 2018 was the highest grossing box office year of all time. And you think about it, there's a lot of stuff in that.
So that was one of the best years.
Yeah.
That was too much, almost.
2019 was pretty close to that. It's the second highest. The third highest. But then COVID hits in 2020, and it was $2 billion. It's just, again, for comparison's sake, we're talking about close to $12 billion, and this is just domestic. 2021 rebounds a little bit. It's funny on the percentage. I know there's some somebody in the marketing department or the business department that's like, we saw 112% increase in 2021, and somebody was like, yeah, but that was just $2 billion, Bob.
Like from zero.
Yeah, right. 112% increase. Woo, way to go, everybody.
$112.
In 2022, it jumped up a little bit again. It went back. It's about $7.3 billion. So far in 2023, right, just, again, as of last week or just as of yesterday, the domestic box office is at $6.7 billion. So my guess is, you've got.
So that's officially back to 2019.
I would say,
if not 18.
Yeah, I would say you're probably getting back to like the probably 9 to 10 billion range this year.
Before all said and done.
And again, and with a lot of less movies too. I mean, there's only been 388 releases this year.
Do we still have some blockbusters coming though? Because Dune's spring now.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. That's a great segue.
Okay.
I'm just going to briefly cover a few that are coming out every week here for the next little bit. Next week, and
make note of the ones you think might really boost that total box office.
So a lot of these are going to be awards type movies. So like next week, there's Dumb Money, which is I think probably going to be more of a awards type movie.
It looks like along the lines of The Big Short and these other movies that were made.
It's about the whole GameStop thing.
Yeah, to tell a true story.
Yeah, the director's Craig Gillespie. He's the one that directed I, Tonya from a few years ago. That was a kind of an Academy Award darling.
Okay.
Next week is also A Haunting in Venice. If you did somehow Kenneth Branagh is still being able to make his Agatha Christie, what is it? What's the guy's name? Poirot. Poirot.
Yeah.
It's part of the Poirot-verse.
Yeah. Poirot-verse.
This one looks a little creepier, so it'll be interesting to see how that does.
This is one of her lesser knowns, at least. So you might not know the ending.
That is very true. As we get, again, later into September, you're starting to see more scary movies. There's an actual Indian American horror movie coming out later in September called It Lives Inside. That should be kind of interesting. There's another movie which I think is so funny because they're not saying the name of the director, but at the end of September there's a movie that comes out called The Creator. I don't know if you've seen the trailers for this.
Oh.
It's basically, again, it's Hollywood right now is with the whole like, hey guys, AI is scary. If you haven't seen Mission Impossible, that came out this summer. That's the theme of Mission Impossible. The Creator's the same thing. Like, hey, what if Chat GPT grew legs and a head and arms?
I read a review of this though that makes me think I really want to see it, and I can't.
Well, it's Gareth Edwards who did. For those that aren't like, who's Gareth Edwards? He's Rogue One. He directed Rogue One. He directed Godzilla.
Yeah,
and the indie hit Monsters. Before that,
I love Monsters.
He's got a great sense of scale. He knows how to present scale on cinema, and so it also has John
Monsters,
David.
I think was one of the best sci-fi horror movies ever made.
It's got John David
with
Washington,
no special effects budget, as I understand it.
Son of Denzel, I
found it. So this is an article. This woman knew that she was going to have to go see The Creator to review it, and so she went back and watched. She'd never seen it before. She went back and watched Steven Spielberg's Artificial Intelligence.
Oh no!
And so she writes a review, a pre-seeing The Creator review of The Creator after having watched Artificial Intelligence from the 90s, early 2000s, or whenever that was. And but it's this amazing article on why this makes people feel oogie. And I'll send it to you. I'll post it on our Facebook page, too, for those who want to read it. But she hasn't seen The Creator yet, but she said, here is my Creator review before I see it.
That's funny.
But it's this exploration of why this stuff creeps us out. And it's fascinating.
1st of October, so we're swinging back around now. So that's the end of September. I'm actually, like I said, I'm looking forward to The Creator. The Exorcist Believer. So this is a sequel to The Exorcist. I saw the trailer. I thought the trailer was really long and hit a lot of the beats of the story, which I thought was interesting because this is like two girls go missing, and then they find them, but then they're possessed. And it's got Ellen Burstyn, or I said that wrong. Burstyn. No, I didn't. Ellen Burstyn.
Okay.
She played Chris McNeil in The Exorcist, which, by the way, my dad says Exorcist, scariest movie he's ever seen in the 70s, right? And I think if you went back in time to the 70s and you'd go, this is scary. Today it feels like Poltergeist. It's almost a comedy.
Yeah.
You're like, that's that ridiculous makeup just barfed up pea soup, right? Like, it's just...
There were two movies that were getting banned from movie theater, The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, yeah.
And they were banned from movie theaters.
They were making people, like, faint in the theaters.
Yeah, people were passing out. They were...
Jaws did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like this,
and you go back and watch them, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre is gruesome.
Right.
The special effects are so hokey, it's not exactly... gross anymore, but it's gruesome, just what they're trying to convey being done on the screen, but it's not scary anymore, which makes you wonder about that whole acclimation. You hear these people say people they adjust, they get used to it, and it's no longer shocking, they want something more. And
well, I think it's perspective. The only thing about The Exorcist that makes me even remotely think, okay, maybe, is that it's the same director who rebooted Halloween, David Gordon Green.
Oh, okay.
So
he knows something or two about.
But let's be honest. Let's talk about those three movies.
Yeah.
The first one was great. The first reboot was great.
Steady decline.
Steady decline.
I finally saw that third one and thought, you kind of landed in the place you're trying to get away from.
When I was reading about movies that were coming out, I was reading and I wanted to read different people's, what they were excited about. And Rolling Stone, the author that was writing about his movies he was excited about for fall, when he was writing about The Exorcist Believer, he said the power of Christ apparently compelled David Gordon Green to take on this direct sequel. but also to make it a first of a proposed trilogy, all the Halloween movies. That made me laugh.
Really disappointed. I wish he would have stopped at just the one, because it was so good.
It cracked me up. But
we have one more break. What month are we at? We're mid-October.
We're at the start of we're in October.
Okay,
we're making good time.
Okay, we'll be able to do it.
We will.
All right. Preview of fall movie season with just a couple of weeks left in summer movie season and not really any blockbusters on the summer movie season calendar remaining. Fall has some surprises for everybody. We'll be back right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KBNU.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I was struggling with constantly being hot, struggling with not sleeping, being able to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even wake up the next morning. I had very high levels of inflammation and memory loss. Memory loss was the scariest part.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
The sleep improved, my memory's coming back. Every time I remember something, I still get really excited. I go walking every morning now, which I've never done before. I've always really wanted to be that type of person that wakes up early enough to enjoy the sunrise. I get to do that every morning now.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
UNI Furniture has always been here to give you great value for your money. When it comes to home furnishings, it really is always a better buy at UNI. And right now, UNI is closing out last year's model mattresses. Closeouts on new models and displays too. Memory foam, innerspring, and hybrids from a number of different name brand manufacturers. And ask UNI to show you this popular copper-infused mattress that sleeps cooler. And did you know UNI has a good selection of sheets and mattress protectors too? UNI Furniture, over 90 years in downtown Logan. There's always a better buy at UNI.
Attention lovers of the Latin culture. Saturday, September 16th, Center Street in Logan will be the epicenter celebration for the Latino Festival. A day filled with joy, music, and cultural dances. A parade that marches down Center Street and fun music. Come hungry, as we have an impressive selection of Latin flavors. And don't forget to visit our vendor booth, where you can take home a piece of Latin culture. This year's Latino Festival is made possible by WCF Insurance, offering insurance solutions for businesses of all sizes and committed to strengthening the communities we serve. Members First Credit Union, our name says it all. And at Members First Credit Union, community matters. Gosner Foods, enjoy starting wages between $16 and $19 per hour, quarterly bonuses and free health insurance. Inquire at GosnerCareers.com. This year's Latino Festival is Saturday, September 16th on Center Street in Logan. The celebration gets underway at 4.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People movie show. We're mid-October and just 3 minutes left in the show. We've got to get to the end of November here, but we can do it.
No, we
Fall
can,
movie preview,
and we can extend this into next week a little bit. We've given everybody the lay of the land for the next probably 30 days, but there are a few in October that if you miss getting tickets to Taylor Swift's concert, you can see that back. That hits theaters on October 13th. Taylor Swift the Eras Tour.
And Disney Plus, right?
I think it comes out shortly after that. There's another movie that hits. I think it's an Apple TV Plus, but I think it'll hit theaters first. Is Killers of the Flower Moon? Yeah. This is Martin Scorsese.
That book scarred me.
Yeah, it's actually not a very long read, but it is one.
I was so mad.
The other one
I was angry at the end of that book.
That in October that I think looks really interesting is that's the old the swimmer Diana Nyad, who swam from Florida to Cuba.
Yeah,
she's in a movie. Jodie Foster, not her, but Annette Bening plays her. Jodie Foster's also in it. Just again, hits theaters on October 20th, and then I think it comes to Netflix a few weeks after that.
Okay.
Again, we'll talk some more as we get deeper. There is a lot of awards movies that are coming out. One thing I did want to note, though, really quick, is you and I were talking about the box office during the break, and here's an interesting thing. When I started kind of what I would call my movie review gig, which would be in the late 90s.
That day you woke up, movie boy.
Yeah, the two movies that were pretty big
by a spider
at the time were Jurassic Park and Independence Day. Were both high up there, like 1 and 2, right?
Really, the first modern era blockbusters.
Like Jurassic Park was it was wow, I can't believe it beat out Star Wars, that kind of thing. Just for context, right? So that's let's just say for argument's sake. That's 1996, 97, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park now is number 42.
Yeah.
On the highest domestic grosses of all time.
Blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Well,
it's strange to think about. It has to. I think the pandemic maybe was the end of that. We'll see. I don't know. Top Gun and Barbie imply that there's definitely still an appetite out there for that. We've talked about it before. There's an aspect of everyone's seeing it. I got to see it.
Yeah.
So, one quick thing to mention on streaming, if you're looking for something fun and absolutely throwaway, and I don't know a thing about what it's based on, and apparently the kids do. There's a pirate series on Netflix. I watched the first episode of the other day called One Piece. If you're looking for something funny, but really action-packed as well, kind of a fantasy sort of thing,